Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Friday, February 7th, 2020.
Commissioner Garcia, James, Davis, and Caloza are present. President James, you do have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning. Wesley Tenagiri, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning. George Espindola, Bureau of Contract Administration.
David Rivera, Streets LA.
Good morning. It is Mahesh Baji from Sanitation.
Morning, Jay Wong, Street Lighting.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we did receive one speaker card under general public comment. We also received a speaker card on items number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8 for today's agenda. No commentary for the Neighborhood Council comment section.
2, 3, 4, 5, and 8.
Yeah, in addition to that, I did receive 2 emails, actually 3 emails for the Run of Hope item, which will be distributed to all commissioners as well.
Well, we'll get to that eventually. Okay. Let's go ahead with general public comment. Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. It's a very interesting couple of days. There was an article in the newspaper about another Sachs who was doing some advocating for meatless meals in a senior center. But you know what? We haven't heard anything in the newspapers or anything from any of the elected officials regarding the Affordable Care Act and how it would impact the city by providing services for the homeless people free because the insurance company would pay for it. As a matter of fact, it's been in the county's new updated guide, LA Care and HealthNet are now, they've changed their title. They're now, I can't think of it. I'm having a brain cramp, sorry. But now they have MyLA as being, MyLA as being the Affordable Care Act provider. But it was never a part of the program. And so it's an asset that's been put there. Essentially, somebody's going to pay with their own money to fill that asset up. There you are. Man. I'm trying to think of the word, and I can't think of the word. But anyway, it's about a couple of different things. It is a big asset for the city and the public to use, and yet nobody is using Affordable Care Act. I mean, the Congress actually did something by enacting that law. They stopped talking about impeachment when Obama was president long enough. Evidently, he didn't get impeached, which was a good thing, but maybe some people thought it might have been a bad thing. But they actually took some action by presenting the Affordable Care Act.
2 minutes.
And more work should be done on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. No other cards on general public comment. We'll close general public comment. Agenda item number 7 is a stop payment notice for Ellicnor Belco Electric Incorporated. They transmitted the stop payment notice in the amount of $341,353.34 for furnishing electrical work in connection with the Riverside Drive near Zoo Drive Bridge over the Los Angeles River project. The primary contractor for the project is Ortiz Enterprises Incorporated. Is there a second to my motion that we receive agenda item number 7 forthwith? By Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 7. Agenda item number 6 is a specification submitted for board adoption and authorization to go ahead and advertise for the invitation of bids. This is for this in Council District 14 for the 6th Street Viaduct Mission and Myers Roundabout project. The estimate's $1,444,518. The bid receipt date will be March 18th, 2020. Is there a second to my motion that we adopt agenda item number 6 forthwith? By Commissioner Caloza. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 6. I've been informed that there's been a request by the Bureau of Engineering that we withdraw agenda item number 1 today. So without objection, we're going to withdraw agenda item number 1. Agenda item number 2. From Streets LA in Council District 5 is a requested tree removal at 7369 West Waring Avenue, recommending that the board first find that the project and tree removals are categorically exempt under Article 3, Section 1, Class 32, projects that consist of construction of limited numbers of new, small facilities or structures, including projects involving less than 35 dwelling units, of the City of Los Angeles Environmental Quality Act guidelines from 2002. And secondly, review and deny the request to remove 4 street trees, which includes 1 western redbud tree and 3 London plane trees for required street widening. So on agenda item number 2, I have Ms. Cato on number 2.
I don't know this particular project, but in general, I do disagree with I think that Public Works needs to review its policy with regards to removal of street trees, because too many of them are being destroyed and then replaced by saplings that don't even survive. So in essence, you're actually killing off 2 trees. It's reducing the canopy. The trees provide oxygen. They provide shade. It's adding to global warming when you remove these trees also. So I would recommend that you actually do what you can to preserve these trees, keep them, maintain them, and not take them down.
Thank you, ma'am. Then it sounds like you might agree with the recommendation from the Bureau to deny the request for the tree removal permit. Mr. Sachs on agenda item number 2.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. And it all depends on what kind of tree is being looked at. By the way, on page 61 of this City of Los Angeles Neighborhood Services Guide, it says there's free street trees. You can get free street trees to your neighborhood in the park, planted in the parkway. Now, it doesn't say who will plant them. In order to apply, residents will need to commit to actively water and care for newly planted trees for 3 years. But again, it doesn't say who'll plant them. So you may find that out from your neighborhood council. You may find that out for your councilman. But, you know, last week you had Westchester Park community come in, and they talked about a whole bunch of things and how they wanted to plant trees. They even had a city arborist look at some of the dead trees, and that they were going to buy trees to plant. And yet, you wonder why the city arborist didn't say, you know what, we have a program that allows for free trees. Free trees, not 3 trees. 3 free trees or 3 free. Say that 3 times fast. So, it's not only knowing about the services, but it's knowing about the services that are available and how you can best use them in your community. And following up with the different departments, your neighborhood council, they were part of the neighborhood council and they didn't know. So it's what you know sometimes and what you don't know. And information is power.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. I've heard that quote before, information is power. Mr. Benuelos on number 2.
Morning, President James, Commissioners, Bureau Representatives, Mr. Jordan, Dr. Campos. Hector Benuelos with the Streets LA Urban Forestry Division. The Streets LA endeavors to seek viable alternatives whenever possible in order to save mature street trees. The owners at 7369 West Waring Avenue at the corner of Martel recently demolished 2 existing single-family residences to construct 5 single-family residences, and which have already been completed. As a condition to build, the developer is required to widen both Martel Avenue and Waring Avenue from a 15 feet half roadway to 20 feet half roadway, and from a 15 feet half roadway to 18 feet half roadway, respectively. The street widening will severely impact and create the need to remove 3 mature London plane trees on Martell Avenue and 1 smaller tree, Western Redbud, there on West Waring Avenue. The Streets LA has requested that the Bureau of Engineering defer the street widening condition and allow the trees to remain. If the conditions are deferred, the applicant will work with the Bureau of Engineering to seek a in lieu fee for the deferred street widening that is satisfactory to the B permit section of the Bureau of Engineering. If the board denies the request for our denial of the permit, which meaning that they'll approve the permit to remove, then the applicant shall replant. There is room to plant 5 trees at the location. They'll have to do the tree planting guarantee fee for 1 tree. The council office 5 was informed of the tree removal permit denial, and they are in support of our recommendation to deny the request for tree removal in order to save the trees.
Thank you, Mr. Banuelos. So this is in Council District 5. If I understand you clearly, the council office has indicated that they do support the Bureau's recommendation of the denial of the tree removal permit for these trees, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Assuming that the Board of Public Works follows the recommendation of Streets LA for the denial, so those trees are not coming out, is there, there's work with the applicant on, that you indicated, at least it seems like the record contains that, regarding the requirements from BOE on the street widening?
It is my understanding that the applicants work with the B permit section of the Bureau of Engineering.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you. Say again, please.
Yes, it is my understanding that the applicant will be working with the Bureau of Engineering.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on this? Look, the applicant was informed of today's hearing, correct?
Yes, and he is here today as well.
Okay. Well, I'm not sensing an objection to the willingness to work with BOE on getting where they're trying to go, even with this recommended denial of the tree removal permit. So I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 2 as stated. Seconded by Commissioner Garcia. Thank you all. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Any issue sending number 2 forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. I do want to thank the applicant for their continued work with Bureau of Engineering and what was obviously a concerted effort to save some trees, so we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 5 is a contract renewal. It's a contract review and renewal. Martin Outdoor Media LLC Los Angeles Bus Bench Program, recommending that the board adopt the staff recommendation to receive and file the section of the report that pertains to the 7th annual review of the City of Los Angeles Bus Bench Program, and secondly, authorize Streets LA to exercise the 5-year renewal option contained in the contract with Martin Outdoor Media LLC in accordance with Article 9 of the contract. All terms and conditions will remain in effect. On number 5, Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. This one's a red flag item. Adopt the staff recommendations. Okay, staff recommendations. Where there's any public input into the staff recommendations, did they have public hearings? Did you have neighborhood councils input on this? Did you have any other input on this except staff recommendations? Because a lot of the staff actually doesn't live in LA. A lot of staff commutes from outside of LA. And so the idea that they're making recommendations on bus benches in the city of LA and the revenue that comes along with it should raise a red flag. Too many items on your agendas, the city council's agendas, are determined by staff recommendations. And I'm sure there's a great staff, but they're not feet on the ground. They're not boots on the ground, as they say in the military. And as I said earlier, knowledge is power, but they don't have actual knowledge of the situations in the different neighborhoods. And so they can make recommendations and the city councilman say, okay, that's fine. Because the staff has recommended it and they've looked over documentation, but they haven't gotten any public input. And that's why it's important to take part in your public procedures, because you get the chance to give input. Without that input, then you can't really complain. And if you complain afterwards, what are you going to complain about? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Oishi on number 5.
Good morning, President James, Commissioners, and Bureau Representatives, Mr. City Attorney. My name is Lance Oishi with the Bureau of Street Services, and I have the pleasure to talk about our bus bench program this morning. Back in October of 2011, we signed a contract with Martin Outdoor Media, LLC, to provide a bus bench program on behalf of the city. Since then, they've completed their rollout in October 2013, where they had to install over 6,000 benches and 2,000 trash receptacles. And they've continued to provide this service and maintain all these facilities for us since that time. Some of the highlights of the program are their outstanding service and maintenance that the company's been providing for us. Also their continued collaboration with us to reposition furniture when we need to address the needs of the transit riding public. Another highlight of the program is their social responsibility in hiring at-risk youth, local hires, and also people that are formerly incarcerated to keep them from going back into the prison system. So they've pursued this consistently over the last 7 years, and they've not only hired these people, but they've trained them to not only vocational skills, but life skills, and many of these people have moved on from Martin Outdoor Media to other positions, some to actually city positions. So we think that that is something that the company should be commended for. They've also produced higher revenue than we anticipated back in 2011. So to date, we've been able to realize $3.386 million out of the program, which averages about $441,000 a year. And they continue to collaborate with us to expand the city's services. And one of the things they've recently helped us with was the Mayor's Executive Directive 17, where we were trying to, which is the Purposeful Aging Directive from the Mayor's Office. And in that effort, we sought to expand bus services or bus bench services in front of senior facilities, such as senior housing complexes or senior congregate meal centers. And Martin Outdoor Media was able to help us put benches in front of 84 of these facilities. So that's above and beyond the 6,000 benches that they're originally required to help us out with. Now, not to say the program has not gone without its challenges. The homelessness issues continue to challenge us on a daily basis from a maintenance perspective. We also have construction. With all the construction going on right now, we've had several of our benches that were illegally removed. And so we have to pursue those from a criminal perspective to see if we can recover those benches. But outside of that, the company has been operating at or above what we expected them to do, and that's why we are recommending that we execute the 5-year option to extend our contract. And as part of that extension, the company voluntarily offered up to provide us with an additional 750 benches and over 200 trash receptacles. That'll bring our total inventory of bus benches to close to 7,000, and our trash receptacles supported through the program up to 2,300 trash receptacles. We also anticipate that over the life of the 5-year term, we'll also be able to realize an additional $1.8 million in revenues. And so based upon the company's past record, their performance, their attitude towards service, staff is recommending that we do execute that 5-year option at this time. That'll also help us during our transition with our other transit furniture program. So we'll continue to have some type of transit furniture in place regardless of what happens with that transition for our transit shelter program. And so that's why we're asking for that at this time. I want to take the moment to just introduce some members from Martin Outdoor Media that came here today. With me today is Randy Smith, who is the president of the company. I also have Glenn Flutie here, who is their Vice President and Manager of Operations, and the guy that I actually work with every day. And I can't tell you how much I love this man because he just is so responsive, is Giovanni Morales. He's he's the supervisor of their field operations crews. And so when we get that phone call about a bus bench that got damaged or graffiti, or we have trash that needs to be picked up, Giovanni's out there. And usually I get an email back from him within 2 hours that says, Lance, we already took care of it. So that's another reason, again, an example of why we enjoy our relationship with them and the service that they provide, and why we'd like to extend the contract. And all for us to be available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Oishi. We'll start with Commissioner Caloza.
Thank you, President James. Thanks for the presentation, Lance. I don't know if you want to come up here and answer my questions. Thanks. But thanks to Martin Outdoor Media for being here today. And I think it shows a lot that you guys are here. Coming to board takes a lot of time and effort, as most of us know. But I do have a few follow-up questions for you, Lance. And thanks for sharing the piece about some of the hiring goals and some of the at-risk youth that they make an intention on hiring for these projects. Can you confirm the new expiration date of this contract with this 5-year renewal?
So the current contract term was going to run from 2011 to 2021. And so with this 5-year extension, the contract will run to October of 2026.
And can you just speak a little bit about the annual review? So from the board report, this is the first review we've done since 2013, is that correct?
Yes. Unfortunately for myself, we've gone through a number of staff changes. And so while I had staff supporting me in 2013 and 2014, that my staff member had retired in 2014, and so from then on, my assistance has been hit or miss, let's just say. So within the last year, actually, we were able to backfill that position, and I had actually staff that could help me formulate and develop reports beyond just the day-to-day activities. And between the two programs, believe me, there was a lot to do.
So if we exercise today's 5-year renewal, is Streets LA confident that they're able to handle an annual review up until the new expiration date?
As long as I have that staff available, yes.
Okay. And then just to clarify the review and the testimony that you gave today about what sounds like a really good working relationship with this company, is that just from the past year, or is that from the past 7 years that we weren't able to cover to do the annual review?
I'm sorry, can you restate that again?
The review that you gave of working with the company, is that just from the past year, or is that reflect the totality of the 7 years where we missed doing an annual review?
It reflects the totality of the 7 years, yes.
Okay. And then I think there's the revenue chart here, but I think I was a little unclear about what percentage, and it could be in here somewhere and I just didn't see it. What percentage does the city actually receive in the gross income for these?
So the chart on the table is a minimum guaranteed fee, and we get that paid up front at the beginning of the year. What happens, the city is actually guaranteed a 9% of the company's gross revenue receipts. And so since year one, we've actually been able to realize the percentage fee, what we call the percentage fee, which has been higher than the minimum annual fee.
Got it. And then last question for me, but I know you talked a little bit about the Department on Aging and how we're doing work with them, but we're also using this program to disseminate information for the census and other city initiatives, right?
That's correct. One of the features of this program is we are able to access up to 10% of the media panels for public service announcements. And so other city departments have been accessing this benefit since day one. And census is one of those things that we are planning to put up as a PSA on our bus benches. Another one is voter registration is coming up as well.
Okay. And you would be the best contact for us to...
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Lance.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Caloza, and thank you for pointing out the similarity in the hiring program that Martin Outdoor Media uses that's similar, like I said, not dissimilar at least. It's a first cousin perhaps to our targeted local hire program here at the City of Los Angeles. Is that a fair characterization, Lance?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions? Then I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 5, seconded by Commissioners Garcia, Davis, and Colosa, so that'll take care of number 5. Any issue sending number 5 forthwith? We'll send number 5 forthwith. Thank you all. Lance, happy to hear that you got some of the staffing that you needed to catch up on some of the backlog in these very important areas. Any issue sending number 5 forthwith? We'll send number 5 forthwith. Agenda item number 4, a project labor agreement, the Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Plan Advanced Water Purification System, Primary Equalization Basin and Emergency Backup Power, as well as additional Valley Outfall Relief Sewer and East Valley Interceptor Sewer Gates Replacement Project, and Screw Pumps Inlet Gates Project. Recommending that the board add the Department of Public Works project labor agreement to this extensive project. Mr. Sachs on number 4.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. What's interesting about project labor agreements is they allow for the work to continue without the people doing the labor going on strike. But sometimes, in a lot of situations with city projects, you get delays because of the orderly process of doing the paperwork. Some departments don't communicate with other departments. It's different than change orders. Change orders happen, and that's to be expected. You don't know what's underground, although sometimes you might know what's underground and just not say anything about it. But the really ideal way is to have your ducks in a row, because once you stop work, maybe the laborers don't work that day, but the people who own the heavy equipment get paid. Cranes make money every day they're on the job, whether they're being used or not being used. Saturday, Sunday, if nobody's working, that crane is making money for the owner. So they like delays, because the longer they're on the job, the more money they make. And it's a real asset if you have the ability to plan ahead. And if you buy into the companies that own the cranes, that's actually different than buying into the companies, the general contractors or the contractors or the subcontractors, because, hey, we have a project coming up, we're going to need your crane company. How about that? It just so happens I have a crane available, and I can make money on that crane whether I'm working or not. And you get paid, everybody gets paid, and there's a little bit of
2
bump
minutes.
there.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. And I see that we have some visitors here with us this morning. Sir, hi. Could someone let us know what this group of young future leaders? Oh, excellent. Welcome, sir. Good morning. Mr. Monte, could you help him with the microphone maybe right here? Great, thank you.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
Where are you from?
St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic School from Monterey Park.
Oh, great. So is today maybe Leadership Day at City Hall?
Sort of.
Sort of? Well, I'm glad I'm close. Have you, so what grade are you all in?
Fifth.
Everybody's in 5th grade? Mm-hmm. Is this your first time to City Hall?
Yes.
And what's your name, sir?
Ishmael.
Nice to meet you, sir. So we are the Board of Public Works, and so the second largest, second or third, but I think maybe the second largest department in the city, about 6,000 employees. And we're the infrastructure department. So for everything you see when you walk outside of your residence is streets, sidewalks, all the trees that you see along the streets. And then we work on things that underground that you don't see that you definitely want to be there, like our sewers and our wastewater treatment plants. And then you all are standing in one of the most filmed rooms in the city of Los Angeles outside of a movie studio where they make lots of television shows and movies right here in this very room. And sometimes it looks like we make it into a courtroom. Sometimes it can even be a church. Sometimes it's a conference room from the White House. So there are all kinds of different things that can happen here. Anything for you, Commissioner Garcia?
I want to ask, well, one of the things that we do here a lot is we hire a lot of engineers, we hire a lot of folks that can build things, that we clean the streets, and there's many jobs around that. What are you interested in doing when you grow up?
I don't really like to say it, but be a pro skater because I skateboard a lot. So.
All right, well, yeah, a pro skater. We build skate parks, you know that? Yeah. So there you go.
You came to the right place today, sir.
We hope to see you in the future on TV. How's that?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for visiting us today. Enjoy your time in City Hall. Did they have a chance to see council chambers as well? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we were here for you to see this beautiful room and your City Hall in action today. Great, thank you. Let me add one thing, since they are, obviously, I could have assumed that they were maybe in a government class. Maybe I should have done that. But the members of the Board of Public Works are appointed by the mayor of the city. So we're actually mayoral appointments. And then the city council, which are elected legislative leaders, they vote to confirm us. So we are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. So I thought for the government students, I would add that information as well. Well, great. Well, make sure they come back and see us when they're ready to begin their professional lives as engineers. All right. And to our host today, or our MC, Ismail, thank you, sir. All right. Thanks, everybody. All right, we are on agenda item number 4. Mr. Monte, you are up, sir. Oh, actually, it's not going to be Mr. Monte. Good morning, sir.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine.
All right, well, good morning. It's always good to be
Mr.
upstage.
Butler, how are you?
Yes. Always great to be upstage by the future leaders of Los Angeles. Yes.
Yeah, it's a tough one to follow, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, welcome. Good morning to you, President James, and all the distinguished members of the board, and also the executives here. My name is John Butler. I am a contract compliance analyst here with the Office of Contract Compliance here on behalf of the Bureau of Contract Administration and the Bureau of Engineering, who jointly recommend that the Board of Public Works add the Department of Public Works project labor agreement to the Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Project, known as the Advanced Water Purification Facility Primary Equalization Basin and Emergency Backup Power Additional Valley Outfall Relief Sewer and East Valley Interceptor Sewer Gates and Screw Pumps Inlet Gates Project. The project was advertised Friday, January 17th of 2020. It is located at 6100 Woodley Avenue in the city of Van Nuys in Council District 6. The city engineers have estimated construction costs at $64.85 million. The project initially addressed just the frequency power backup, and that was to provide 2 new emergency diesel generators. It has been now expanded to include the following: primary equalization basin that will provide an additional 6.75 million gallons of storage volume, gates replacements providing for the removal and replacement of 9 large cast iron gates and temporary sewer gates bypass systems, and sewer pump inlet gates that will provide for the removal and replacement of 8 additional inlet pump gates. Now, the PLA will provide numerous benefits for the city, including helping to ensure quality work is completed on time and within budget. It also will ensure that work is done safely because we'll utilize skilled workers with a commitment to training, and it also will facilitate an orderly settlement of labor disputes without strikes or other work stoppages. Now, the PLA will also help ensure the maximum economic benefit is achieved for the city's residents and communities. Now, completed projects covered by prior and current PLAs have created an average of 13 jobs per million. Based on that math, the combined 4 projects could potentially generate 843 jobs and career opportunities. Now, adding the PLA will ensure that construction work includes specific targets for hiring local residents, including apprentices and transitional workers, with barriers to employment such as homelessness, veteran status, and criminal history. Now, these hiring targets within the PLA are actively monitored by the Bureau of Contract Administration Office of Contract Compliance. So thusly, we recommend that the Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Plant 4 project combination be included with the PLA. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. And I know you mentioned it, but and there are a couple of different ways to get there because you broke it down with the money versus the math on the number of employees and hires we get.
Yes.
But I did want to put an exclamation point on the estimated total construction budget from the city engineer is $64,852,000. We'll start with Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, President James. With those what did you say? I just want to go. 64 million. You're producing 800 and more jobs. I saw that on the report. Is that?
That is the estimated 843 jobs.
Of the new jobs for the project labor agreement?
Correct.
Very nice. I just want to congratulate you on, Ian, I know you're a big supporter of this, and your team for making sure that this happens. Thank you for this. I fully support when I know we're creating new jobs for new folks to come into the workplace.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Anything further? That's a motion from Commissioner Garcia, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 4. Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Thank you.
Any issue sending number 4 forthwith? We will send number 4 forthwith. Is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Friday, January 31st, 2020 by Commissioner Garcia? Any objections? Without objections, we will do that. Dr. Campos, the only voting item we have left now is agenda item number 3, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Then let's go ahead and call agenda item number 3. Council District 11, a special event permit, Run for Hope 5K event, recommending that the board approve the application for proposed special event reference number 201-92189. This was continued from a little over 2 weeks ago, from Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020. Mr. Rivera, we're going to start, Mr. Sachs, we're going to start with Mr. Rivera before we take the speakers. Because this is a continuation, we've had a public hearing on this. But nevertheless, I'm still going to permit speaker cards that have come in on this today as well. But when we had the hearing on January 22nd, there were a number of issues that were raised regarding the route of the event in April, and the issues regarding other departments that are in support of the route for their varying reasons. And Commissioner Garcia specifically, as I recall, she can certainly speak for herself, but my recollection was that Commissioner Garcia had asked that that the Department of Transportation, and if necessary in consultation with Streets LA, look at the viability of at least an alternative route. Recognizing that we're going to hear from both sides again, would you add anything that you feel like needs to be added to the summary and just provide a kind of an update, since we have some additional people here that were not here for the first hearing, just kind of go back to where we were and bring us current.
Sure. All right.
And one
additional step. I know we also asked, in addition to looking at the route, but we also asked for a little bit more outreach to be done, so I don't know if you can attest to that as well.
Correct.
Thank
Okay, David Rivera with Streets LA, President James, Commissioners, Bureau Representatives, Mr. City Attorney, and Dr. Campos. Yes, the instructions were from the last time to reach out to DOT, the Department of Transportation, to work with the sponsor, Mr. Linder, and to see if there could possibly be an alternate route. We got in contact with DOT, and they worked together, and the results of that was Mr. Linder spoke to Lupe Sandoval, which is the Department of Transportation engineer, to go over another possible route, and according to them, the route that they have is the one that they still recommend. Now, they did suggest some things that they wanted them to do, some additional outreach, not only on the closure itself, but the surrounding residents and such. So Dr. Campos, I believe, received some of the letters and flyers that went out to the additional residents throughout the area.
All right. We did receive some emails. Dr. Campos, is it my recollection accurate that there was an email from the Los Angeles Police Department?
There was an email that came through from the Los Angeles Police Department. However, I did not print that out for your view this morning. However, I did distribute that, I believe, through email.
Right, through
If
email.
not, I can quickly print that out for you.
Oh, I'm sorry?
If not, I can quickly print that out.
Would you mind doing that while we go through some of the speakers? Okay, so let's go to, we started with, Mr. Sachs, you put in a card on number 3. Why don't you come forward, sir?
Thank you again, Arnold Sachs. I did put in a card on number 3. A couple of things I was questioning about number 3, because it was brought up when you were talking about the bus benches, the cleanup for the event. When I went to the Rose Bowl parade, 20 minutes after the Rose Bowl parade was finished, poof, Pasadena Public Works was in there cleaning the streets, sweeping the streets. Everything was pretty much hunky-dory. And I was just wondering how the cleanup would be handled for this special event. But also more importantly, because it was mentioned during your bus bench item, is emptying the trash bins. It was mentioned that the bus bench program will provide an extra 50 or 60 bus bins, but nothing was ever mentioned about emptying the trash bins and whose responsibility that falls to. And so it's the detail. The devil's in the details sometimes also, Mr. James. There's a lot of quotes you can go with. So that's one thing. Number 2, and I'm not sure, is this event around Easter? Does it interfere with any kind of Easter services or Passover services? I'm not sure because I don't really know that total calendar. And but more importantly is just the cleanup itself and how that'll be handled and who's responsible for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sachs. All right, let me look and see. Everyone else would be categorized as a real party in interest, it looks like to me. So, Ms. Cato, you are the person who's registered the protest. Recognizing, please come forward. You've put in a speaker card. We may have some follow-up questions. We're going to follow the same guidelines that with one alteration that we followed last time, but I recognize there are some people here that weren't here for the first hearing. We try not to, and have a policy of not putting our 2-minute time limit on speakers that are the real parties in interest. And that was what we followed in the first hearing, but we had the first hearing. So for the second hearing, we're not going to have a hard out to use a media term, on 3 minutes per person. But when we get to 3 minutes, Dr. Campos is going to alert everyone for each speaker, and then I will inquire as to how much more time is needed if we haven't covered everything in those 3 minutes. My admonition for anyone that's put in the speaker card is the same request I have for anyone who speaks on any item of which we don't have our standard time limit, and that is once you start to repeat yourself, then we're going to interject in the interest of everyone's time. So, Ms. Cato, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, not off the clock, but I'm not off the clock. I have a comment to make about the LAPD. I believe because they're a city agency, just like LAFD, they're not allowed to endorse any kind of an event, as far as I know. I was actually contacted, and this is what I don't appreciate. Apparently somebody from our house had contacted our West LA LAPD SLO, senior lead officer, who then sent me an email, I think in an attempt to coerce me to rescind my complaint about the route. So I don't appreciate that at all from the nonprofit that did that. Anyway, so just to begin, I don't deny them the fact or the right to go ahead and have a run. Okay, I'm not denying them the ability to raise funds. My whole thing is just to remove the route from the residential area. Last time I did bring up a comment by Chief Development Officer Sylvia Moskowitz, who's actually here, at the meeting, the initial meeting that I had with, I believe it was Stephanie McFadden. What she stated was basically it was they felt entitled to hold the route within our community. And if you're feeling entitled to go ahead and hold the route, that means you're not really respecting the community at all. It's from an elitist viewpoint that, I'm sorry, basically kind of railroading the community over the route, the run route. They did come to me also, this was like, I think 3 years ago. They wanted me to assist them with increasing their fundraising. They wanted to have outreach. Okay, so I suggested to them to go to UCLA. UCLA campus is a huge population there. They could connect with the sororities, the fraternities, the student clubs, organizations, faculty and administrators there. As far as the fundraising, I think 2018 they raised $275,000. I'm sure they probably raised something similar to that in 2019. They are no longer posting any information on their website as far as the number of participants and also the money that they raise, because of the simple fact that I pulled that information from their 2018 website. So they're no longer posting that. It's just that if they're reaching out to me to do outreach in the community, to increase their fundraising efforts, to me it seems like it's an insincere request. If I'm recommending that they go to, like, say, another campus like UCLA, where they would probably increase their fundraising efforts, I don't know, maybe even 3 or 5 or 10-fold from what they're doing right now. Keeping it in the community on a residential route, that doesn't elevate the run at all. That's why my suggestion was to push it out onto Sawtell down to Pico, or onto Olympic, or onto Santa Monica Boulevard.
Thank you, Ms. Cato. One moment. I think Commissioner Davis may have a question for you. Commissioner Davis. Ms. Cato.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cato, for your remarks. Didn't you testify that there were other organizations in the community that are doing these kind of annual events? Are there other nonprofits?
Well, you have the Obon, the West LA Buddhist Temple. They have their Obon, their annual Obon Festival, which is in July. I think it's like close to the last weekend in July, Saturday and Sunday. They close off just one block there between the residents on the other side and then the church yard, whatever, parking lot for street dancing. But that's an annual event. Like I said, it's been in place for I don't know how long, at least since the 60s, maybe the 50s. Okay. There is, I think the Methodist Church has a carnival in September, but that's restricted to their property. Okay. I'm aware of an event that's going to take place this year for the first time, where they're actually going to shut down Sawtell between Nebraska and Olympic. And I think a lot of people also don't know about this fact as well, too. It's going to be on a Saturday, May 3rd from 11 to 3. But like I said, a lot of the merchants along that street don't even know about the street closure.
So there are other organizations that do have events in the neighborhood, in the community, correct?
But not on this scale, where you're actually shutting down and that you're actually enclosing 12 square city blocks. I think it was like 12, yeah, or no, actually, 18 actually. It was 18 city square blocks within a cul-de-sac. So all these people are basically prisoners or
How often, how long is this project?
I'm sorry,
How many days is this project?
I'm sorry, the run?
How long does this project last? This project here, is it, how many days is it?
That's the one day.
It's
It's on a Sunday.
Uh-huh.
They actually, in the past, I believe they haven't allowed people to park on the street in front of their houses since 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yes,
And then in the past, they've also kept that restriction up until 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
So how long does it last? The
I
project?
don't time it. I don't know
Not
from.
an all-day project. You said up to 1 in the evening, in the afternoon, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I'm trying to get the duration of the project. How long, in fact? How many days does this project take place?
It's just the one day. It's on a Sunday.
Okay, it's on a Sunday, and how long on a Sunday does it take place?
Well, because they're restricting people from not parking in front of their own houses from 5 a.m. in the morning.
Till-
And I believe the street parking signs and no parking signs are posted, no parking from 5 a.m. until 1 p.m.
Okay, so the project is basically from 5 to 1. How many times a year?
I'm sorry?
How many times a year? Just one time a year?
One time, yes.
I'm trying to, my questioning is around getting a better understanding of how long this project is implemented and at what times during the day. So what I've been able to get from your testimony is it's an event that takes place one day from 5 in the morning for preparation to 1 p.m. in the evening to complete the project primarily. Somewhere around in there, correct? That's,
I guess, yes.
I'm trying to understand.
Well, it's not
You
my
live
event. It's
there.
not my event.
I
It's
don't
not
live
my
there.
event.
You live there. I don't. I'm trying to understand from you as the constituent of the city what the duration of time that this project is. That will give me a better understanding of what you're talking about. So I do understand now it's one day, and that is from 5 a.m. primarily to 1 p.m. And you said that this is the only project in the community annual event. Is that right, or are there other annual events?
No, I just told you that the Obon is an annual event.
Okay,
I told you that the Methodist Church has an annual event.
Okay, so you have about 2 or 3 other annual events in your community.
Yes.
Okay.
But they're not on this kind of a scale where you're actually blocking, you're actually shutting down a major portion of Sawtell Boulevard.
Sure.
Sawtell Boulevard basically it's from Santa Monica Boulevard to Olympic, almost, because like I said, they block access to Sawtell.
Yes,
They
ma'am.
blocked out, they shut down Mississippi
Yes, ma'am.
from Sawtell to Berry, and then from Berry to Nebraska.
So it's kind of a run walk. We usually have the marathon, but it doesn't come through your area.
They usually use the major routes like San Vicente, Wilshire Boulevard, Santa Monica Boulevard. They don't come through our residential area at all.
Okay. So, the other concern that we talked about and had a discussion about was inclusion in terms of reaching out and communicating. And the organization has communicated with you, correct?
Excuse me?
Have they communicated? Have they had anything to say to you about the project? Have they asked you any questions about how to get involved with what they're doing?
No, they don't want to get me. They don't want me to get me involved because I'm trying to. They think that I'm shutting them down. I'm not shutting them down.
Yes,
I'm just
ma'am.
asking them to relocate a portion of the route out of the residential area in consideration and and out of respect for the community that lives there 24/7. They haven't contacted me. They have actually, like I said, they've gone behind my back and they've actually contacted the senior lead officer of the West LAPD, James Lavinson, who then sent me an email, which was totally inappropriate, to try to coerce me into into rescinding my complaint about the route. He has no right to do that, and he is actually supposed to be doing that as a member of LAPD, just as LAFD, the fire department, is not allowed to endorse or any kind of events as well too, I believe. So that's a city agency.
Well, the city agency is accessible to everybody in the city, both those who live here, those who do business here. We try to be accessible to everyone. And also, we try to not simply understand problems. I know, as a member of the board, like to focus on implementation of solutions to problems.
I'm looking for a solution
I'm sorry. After I get an opportunity to hear the problem, all neighbors at some point in time, and there are some neighborhoods that are more remote than others, and unfortunately I don't live in a remote area, and I certainly wouldn't expect you to endure the numerous civic activities that happen in my particular neighborhood. But we have many. But we live in a neighborhood that has institutions that regularly accommodate people around the University of Southern California area, in addition around the California State Science Center area, and that we have numerous activities similar to this. I'm not saying that my experience in any way, shape, form, or measure should be imposed upon you. But what I am saying is that in the city of Los Angeles, we have these nonprofit organizations that provide service to constituents that government doesn't pay for. And so as a result of that, there are activities they have to engage in to make ends meet to provide those services. Those services are critically important in terms of making Los Angeles what it ought to be. And so while I certainly empathize with the neighbors not wanting to be disturbed in any way, I think understanding this effort that we have as a community is important because we have to work together. If, in fact, we have an organization that is in the community for one day from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m., is it possible that there are some solutions that we can implement that would include the community in what they're doing, and that we could potentially reach some common ground to endure this activity for, I wouldn't even say half a day, but let's just for the purpose of this discussion, for half a day. Would it be possible that the community would embrace, would empathize, would tolerate this organization for that length of time? And if it's true that it's possible, what are the activities that we can enact to help make that happen? Could we involve you in some way? Could we have a discussion to talk about what it is that we could do to make this activity reasonable, particularly as it relates to implementing the project for this year, even if they decide to move next year? In terms of solution, is it possible? This is certainly not the only neighborhood that has this, and I'm not asking this neighborhood to take it, but I have to ask, can we consider, is it possible that we could explore the possibility of a solution for this year for this project? And finally, I would be interested, you're representing the neighborhood association, is that correct?
Excuse me?
You're representing the neighborhood?
I represent neighbors within my community, but I'm not in a kind of association. I'm an independent citizen of the city of Los Angeles, a constituent of CD11. I am a community advocate.
Okay, so what I will say is that I appreciate your point of view, but as a member of the Board of Public Works, my focus and my passion is around what we can do to reach a solution to this problem. And I understand the problem, and I've heard the problem. This is, I guess, at least my second hearing. But I would love to see us explore what the solution could be in terms of tolerating this project for this year. I do understand your suggestion that they should move somewhere next year. But is it possible? Is there any hope that we could work together for a solution for this year? I'd love for us to think about and to ponder that possibility.
If they're willing to move it out of the residential area, I'm willing to work with them this year. Not moving it out next year, but this year. If they move the route this year, I'm willing to work with them. But they have not reached out to me. I think you also...
Okay, you've answered my question. I don't want to take up the time. Yeah, no, but let me say this.
Okay.
At the same time, I want to be sensitive. I'm not the only member of the Board of Public Works. So I want to be sensitive to my other colleagues and move forward. But I was only seeking the answer to my question, and you've done that sufficiently, and I thank you for both your testimony and for answering my question. Thank you.
But may I say something?
Thank you, ma'am. We got to hear from other people. They're entitled to be heard as well.
Because I don't think you really see the big picture. Because
So,
the thing has to do with...
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
We have other speakers as well. Mr. Linder? Fine, that's going to be Sylvia Moskowitz. Okay, let's just make sure that I have cards for everyone that's going to speak. Okay, Michelle Prince, I have your card. Yes, ma'am. Just for the record, by the way, I want to confirm this Our House Grief Support Center Run for Hope that we have a copy of that has communications from Sawtell Japantown Association, Naomi Kagayama, as well as Ben Lezebnik from Councilmember Bonin's office, the open house flyer. That's something that your entity provided to us? Okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Prince, and I'm the CEO of Our House Grief Support Center. So members of the board, commissioners, and President James, I just wanted to bring a few comments related to this complaint. I understand from the previous conversations from Brennan and from Lisa Wilkinson that the conversation last week was really about Our House Grief Support Center not being an integrated and collaborative member of our neighborhood and our community.
That was one of the complaints that was raised.
In addition to some of the very specific pieces of the route and so forth. And so I know that you know that grief is one of the most universal experiences that we can experience as human beings. And the core essence of the work that we do is to work with young children, with teenagers, and with adults of all ages to help them when they are suffering after the death of someone close in their life. And in a world where in our very dense Los Angeles neighborhoods, we don't necessarily have the neighborhood structures that we once did, where people come to visitation and they bring casseroles. We are literally the antidote because we build community. We've been a neighbor on Sawtell for approximately 20 years and always been in a couple of blocks in our 26-year history. And we have neighbors who are literally physical residential neighbors, our retail and restaurant neighbors, our city governing bodies are our neighbors, the police department, the fire department. We had an open house as recommended, and it was a pleasure to walk into our lobby and see who joined us and who are members of our community. And so we just want to make sure that you have a sense, so we brought a few members of our team who are here with us in addition to Brennan, and Lisa, who you met 2 weeks ago. Sylvia Moskowitz is here with us. Shannon Boren is here with us. Coco Masol is here, Corrali. Nydia Ortega is here with us. Timothy Johnson. And as you mentioned, we have neighbors from the Japan Sawtell Neighborhood Association and events, plus a woman named Naomi Kagayama, who we fabulously met completely separate from this particular activity because we have been so thrilled to learn more about the neighborhood where we have been residing for years. And now, just in the last year, you may have heard this in the last conversation, without the conversation about the Run for Hope, we recently took our entire staff meeting to witness and watch a documentary that was created about our neighborhood so that we could learn more. And from that, we learned of the festival
3
in
minutes.
May.
Go ahead.
And so we want to make sure that you know that we are an integrated and collaborative neighbor, and other members of our team will talk about the solutions and other steps that you have requested.
Thank you, ma'am. So, Ms. Moskowitz, are you next? Okay, thank you.
Thank you to all of you for letting us speak. My name is Sylvia Moskowitz, and I come to you this morning, as you heard, in two capacities, actually. The first is in my role as Chief Development Officer for our house, and ultimately the responsibility for putting on this event falls to me and my staff. But my second capacity is as a proud and very happy resident of this neighborhood, which I joined on January 13th. So I really am 24/7 in the neighborhood. My very first experience with our house was at the 2018 Run for Hope. I was a candidate then for the position I now hold, and I was interested in learning as much as I could, and I thought there was no better way to do it than to attend this flagship event that is put on. I was instantly touched by the shirts. That was the first thing I saw. These are all personalized shirts. We do this for every person who registers. They put the photo of the person they're grieving and the relationship that they have with that person. There were babies and kids, teens and adults, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, grandparents and friends, all who had died and were being remembered that day. All manner of ethnic groups are represented at this event. No one is left out. It was kind of overwhelming to see so much grief and sadness in one place, but as I spent the day with the run, with the festival, with the various activities, I also saw smiles, and I saw hugs, and I saw hope. And that was what made me really want to work for this organization. It is really critical for this organization to do this event. The only way that we can provide the services that we do is by raising money. I've been doing it for 32 years for a variety of amazing organizations, and this really is a culmination of my career. I want you to understand that the planning process for this begins almost at the end of the first one. And I personally visited UCLA twice this year, scoping out the possible alternatives. But at this point, as a 501c3, we have to be financially prudent. And it was almost double the cost to take this event to UCLA than it is in our own neighborhood. So it did not feel like at this point in time we were capable of doing that. So the planning process actually begins with us starting with Brennan, who's a very experienced and knowledgeable race director, and outreach to the West LA Sawtell Neighborhood Council, Sawtell Japantown businesses, police, and other city services. The event is always held on the last Sunday of April. So after 10 years, this is not a surprise to the neighborhood that this event is happening on that day. We actually wanted to thank the commissioners and the Board of Public Works because this year, in furtherance of your recommendation, we did increase the outreach to the neighborhood.
Go ahead and finish, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you. We actually walked the streets. I did it, Lisa did it, Shannon did it, and we actually knocked on doors. We talked to business owners, we talked to residents, we invited them to the open house that you see, and at your recommendation, we translated the open house invitation to Spanish and to Japanese so that we made sure that we were inclusive of the community. We promise you that we will do the same thing with the flyers and the door hangers and the signage that we put out every year notifying the neighborhood of this. We also reached out in the comment that I think I heard about parking and the difficulty for the neighborhood with parking. We've reached out to the LAPD on Butler as well as a church that actually gives us parking spaces every year to see whether we can reserve those parking spaces for neighborhood folks so that they don't necessarily have to go outside the neighborhood trying to find parking, but that we will let them know that we have these parking spaces available. We also keep to an extremely tight schedule, and I am grateful to you, Commissioner Davis, for saying about the length of time, because actually, although the street parking is not allowed between 5 a.m. And 1 p.m., We keep to a really tight schedule. The 5K starts at 9. The fastest runners are usually done within 15 to 20 minutes. And as the crowd kind of thins out and separates and passes intersections, we open those intersections as soon as the last walker passes through. So the total time that the neighborhood is actually enclosed is about an hour and a half. That's about the length of time it takes the slowest walkers to walk. So we also, because we heard this as well, we repeatedly reached out to police and fire and have been assured that there is not an issue with first responders being able to get into the neighborhood. They know this is happening, and they have done it in a way that in seconds, if someone needs a fire department, the police department, they're there, they're in there. In fact, the police department is with us at the festival, both for the protection of the people participating, but also as part of the community, so they also can respond instantaneously. And there has not, in the 10 years that we have done this event in the neighborhood, that I am aware of, that we have heard, ever been an incident where someone could not receive the help that they needed. I guess what I'm asking is for logic and common sense to really prevail today. I understand that it's unpleasant and there is an impact on the residents, but I really feel in the vast scheme of things and over the course of a year, it's pretty minimal. We actually are going to invite, and we have in the past, but we're going to make a concerted effort. We want the neighbors to come. We're going to have a free brunch this year. We invite all of you to come. We're going to do this at no cost to them. They can participate as much or as little as they want, and we welcome them with open arms. And we make a promise to you that over the course of the year, we will continue to reach out and build these bridges to the community. It's our community too. We've been there, as Michelle said, for over 20 years, and we provide an important service to the community. Some of the people who've utilized our services live in the community, and we're just grateful to you for really your kind consideration of this and for listening to everyone involved. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Jordan, there was a reference made earlier that the LAPD could not, by the way, the LAPD has indicated that there will be access, emergency access on the route. There was a reference, though, that the LAPD could not basically opine on an event like this. I mean, we rely on our city departments with expertise in all these areas, whether it's Streets LA or DOT or fire or any of these, rec and parks, building and safety, any of these departments that have jurisdiction over something like this. Do you have a response on that?
Yes, I'm happy to clarify any misconception that that comment may have been intended to create. The special event ordinance, LAMC 4120, specifically directs the Bureau of Street Services when they receive an application to contact and provide a copy of the special event application to both the council office, any affected city departments. It specifically calls out the Los Angeles Police Department as a potentially affected city department for the purpose of getting those departments and offices review and comment. So not only did they were directed to reach out to the LAPD, and LAPD's responsibility is to provide its review and comment on that. So it was entirely appropriate in every sense of the word.
All right, thank you. We also have an email of support from the field deputy from the council office as well. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. The next speaker, sir, I've got Naomi Kagayana, and that's all, I think. Oh, and you, sir, right. But Ms. Kagayama is coming first, okay?
Good morning. I'm a little bit nervous. If I just start off, because I will be disputing Rosie. Rosie, I apologize. I will be have a different opinion of Ms. Cotto. My name is Naomi Kagayama, and I've always lived in West LA and Sawtelle, and, well, except for a little bit of time when I got married in Mar Vista, I went back. My husband's business is a third-generation business right in the neighborhood. I live right in the neighborhood. I am right in that area that is part of the run. I'm also a member of the Sawtelle Japantown Association, and I just completed my tenure, my elected tenure with the West LA Sawtelle Neighborhood Council in 2019. So I like to believe that I do speak on behalf of my community, my neighborhood, those that I know. You know, I understand that and I fully support this run. I know neighborhood runs, I know big runs, I know little runs because I happen to be married to a marathoner. But and so we've gone to the big ones, and there's something so personal about these smaller runs, these 5Ks and 10Ks and different ones. As a community, I actually had a chance to reach out to my neighbors, to friends, to Sawtelle Japantown Association when I realized that I'd be coming here today. And I will tell you from my next door neighbor, Ronnie, I could give you a list of the 10 people that I contacted. You know, these are all those right in the neighborhood. I did not get one negative, you know, and especially when I also talked about the mission of our house, I think I got even more positivity. So I know it's hard, and I understand that it's not always easy in a neighborhood because it's, you know, if you guys know the old Sawtelle versus the new sort of trendier Sawtelle, you know, there is a definite old-time feel. It's a great walking area. It's a real close neighborhood feel, and sometimes we like our quiet Sundays. I totally get that. And all these years, I've seen the run. I kind of get excited about it because I think, oh, it's so cool. You know, you see people running. I didn't always know the organization. I'm kind of sorry I didn't know, but I do now. And I hope that my high school daughter will also get some volunteers from our high school. She's president, actually, of the Asian Student Association, and others, and also the Sawtelle Japantown Association. I've reached out to the Sawtelle Neighborhood Council. They've always supported this run for all the years. And I understand that, you know, the fabric of the neighborhood, we know we sometimes have naysayers, but that's okay. Everyone has a right to be together, and I just wanted to...
3 minutes.
Could I make one more
please, yes.
Just about parking, because we do have restricted parking. Parking is for residents only. And I've been there when the race was happening, and I've had to leave, or had to go in. They're not hard stops, you know, because am I missing something? You know, so I think we're not locked in. If we have to leave, there are ways out. You know, maybe you have to take a couple extra turns, but if I need to go to Ralph's, I can still get to Ralph's. So, again, so maybe I missed a few things, but if you have any questions, I just wanted to speak, you know, and give you my opinion.
Thank you, ma'am. I may have a question for you in follow-up, but we'll see. Mr. Lindner.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. My name is Brennan Lindner. I am the Operations and Race Director for the event. Most everything actually has been said, but I'll just speak just to the outreach as well as to the LA DOT recommendations. So they actually asked just for additional outreach in the center of the route. And if you look on page 2 of the packet, it shows the route. It is a J shape, so there is always an out. And then we're going to increase our detour sign so it's really clear for people to get out there. So in summary, we're just going to increase our outreach in the center as well as signage.
Thank you. Ms. Kageyama, can I ask you a question? Yes, please come forward. Mr. Lindner was here, maybe a couple of others that were here last time, and there was an issue that came up that our board grappled with a bit and struggled with a bit to understand and to respond to because of which I'll demonstrate for a moment, kind of the difficult choice or lack thereof that we were having to respond to that was put on the table. And I wanted to get a sense from you because you had indicated your association, your association with the Sawtelle Japantown Association.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
During the first hearing, and it's available online, anybody can listen to it, there was a claim in the protest that Ms. Cato had indicated this earlier, that she says she's speaking for the community, and that there are cultural issues related to the community that we couldn't understand, that would indicate that the community will not speak out against something if the city comes in and says that it's something that they support, that they want to be good neighbors, good citizens, and while they may oppose it, they'll never say they oppose it. So, and that was in response to our offer to go into the community, not us, but to have the race organizers confirm and prove to us that they went into the community in all the language necessary to respond. And the answer we got back was, well, that doesn't matter. Even if they tell you they support it, they don't. So you're here. You've volunteered to come and put in a speaker card, and you have an association with the Sawtell Japantown Association.
Yes. Could
you respond to that? Because you live in the community, we don't, and we didn't have any way to respond to that, and you're here today.
Well, okay. If I asked you as a member of whatever your neighborhood or community, and if I said, well, because of your ethnicity or whatever it may be, and if it was your one voice, would you absolutely think that blankets everybody? No. The Japanese American community is a very, very big presence with very deep roots in the Sawtell area. Of course, it goes back to pre-World War II, and so some of the history is amazing, and it is true there are cultural differences, and there are cultural things that maybe make it hard sometimes to speak up. My dad never talked about his camp experience, and I think it's heartbreaking as he passed without learning all of that. So I'm not going to dispute the fact that there are cultural differences that would maybe stop someone from voicing maybe coming here. I'm not comfortable with it. I don't know if it's cultural just because, honestly, you guys are kind of nerve-wracking. But at different times, one voice is not a whole community. One point of view, mine is not the whole community. I would never say so. And I know there are cultural differences. But let me bring up one thing. So Little Tokyo Service Center, which is a very well-esteemed nonprofit in downtown Los Angeles, and many of you may already know, lost their executive director last year, and this was Dean Matsubayashi, and it was a tragedy. He died when he shouldn't have, and I will tell you, our house was one of the organizations that LTSC reached out to for consultation. So I will say that grief kind of transcends cultural boundaries. And I know your question was more that if the city says it's okay, people will be more obedient. There may be a bit of truth in terms of trying to do the right thing. That's a very old-time kind of Asian kind of feel. But I think in this day and age that people would and should speak up a little bit more. If not themselves, they'll have a younger member of the family do so. I don't know what to tell you. I think there are multiple voices representing our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Lindner, can I ask one more question of you? Do I recall correctly a statement in the hearing back on January 22nd that the Sawtell Japantown Association has a booth that there's participation?
That's correct.
Okay, could you explain their participation with this event?
Yeah, we have a Finish Line Festival that's in the parking lot at West LA Civic Center, and at that point we invite, really, I say, groups represented in the area, of which, the neighborhood council comes out, CD11, as well as the West LA Sawtell Japantown. So it's, I'd say in partnership that they get to come, but it's also outreach for what they're up to as well as their festival in May.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Caloza.
Can I have Ms. Let me just grab her name here, Kageyama come up one last time?
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to, well, first, thank you for being here today, for adding your voice and support and representation to, a delicate issue, one that we're, again, trying to find the right balance between, a process that we've established here at the city for making these types of requests for special events and what we try to do with balancing feedback from the community. And so thank you for adding your voice to that. Can you confirm and state again for the record how long you've lived in Sawtelle and the number of years?
Oh, well, I was born in the 90025 zip code, which is considered West LA. Now, these days, it's still considered West LA/Sawtelle. So my mom still lives there, maybe half a mile away. So I grew up in that neighborhood, went to Japanese school, which is right there off Sawtelle Boulevard. And then when I got married, went to move just to Mar Vista for a little while, came back, let's see, my daughter was, I don't know, like 12 years ago, but I'd never been out of the neighborhood because, our family's there. So, but we ended up just wanting to go right back into Sawtelle because that's where my husband's business is. It was, then he could just walk to work, literally. So that's what we did.
Great.
But we were always kind of connected with this small area, especially because the business is there. So even if we didn't live right there, we were always there.
So you wear a few different hats here today.
I do, yeah.
Somebody from the neighborhood association, somebody as a resident.
The Sawtelle Japantown Association, which is also right in Sawtelle. The West LA Sawtelle Neighborhood Council, I was actually voted on in 2016, and my term ended 2019. I've been the resident there for I consider it forever, even if that little, it's still within a few miles. And, yeah.
So resident, small business owner, somebody who's an active participant in the neighborhood association.
Yes.
And so you've, seen the annual events I think Commissioner Davis talked about earlier with Mrs. Cato. And so if I could just get your opinion in terms of the outreach that this specific run has done in comparison to maybe some of these other events that the Sawtelle neighborhood sees every year. What would your opinion of that be? Would it be more, less? I think that would be.
I think it's similar. I think if you're living in any neighborhood, if you're kind of watching out for what's going on in your neighborhood, you're going to see it because you know that they post it in all the regular places and maybe post it on Nextdoor or whatever. If you're not paying attention, if you don't want to know what's going on in your neighborhood, you'll think nothing's being done. And, that happens a lot. We do have a higher number of kind of, we have elderly populations, maybe some who don't pay attention or English is not their first language. Like my mom would have no real knowledge of what's going on, but, she'll kind of trust me to kind of say, oh, let's go to the farmer's market, they're having something or whatever. But in terms of general outreach, I know the neighborhood council, they have an outreach committee. So if any organization that wants to kind of do it, they will help promote.
But you're satisfied with what the race organizers have done for leading up to
Oh, I am. I saw the flyers, around before, and I felt that maybe I was paying attention. I thought there was enough notice,
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think that's just really helpful to confirm, and thank you for, bringing up the cultural sensitivities that we were trying to do our best to balance at the board, and mentioning, of course, Dean, who I also knew from the Little Tokyo Service Center. And so I think that's really helpful. I think to understand that there's differences of opinion, but there's, as you mentioned, different views in the community. And I think from what I've seen, from what the race organizers have brought forth, your testimony today, that is also just as important in terms of the amount of work and outreach that has been put on the record for a nonprofit event that provides benefit to the community. And so for me, and if I could share this with the board, I think that we've exhausted some of the options, and we have gone through the process of double checking the route. From what it sounds like, there's been parking mitigation that is going to happen as a result of this race. There's been additional outreach, a commitment from the nonprofit to continue to build bridges with the community, and again, also overwhelming support as well from the documents listed here. That my specific recommendation would be to move forward with this event, knowing that it is an incredibly sensitive issue, and that there is a commitment there to work hand in hand with Ms. Cato to see, as what Commissioner Davis mentioned, hopefully some solutions that we can implement and come to some common ground. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, let me have Commissioner Davis and then Commissioner Garcia.
I think that we all have learned a lot through the various hearings that we've had on this matter. Dr. King said that integration is not going to be ready-made. It's something that we have to create. The outreach that the agency has done is much appreciated because it's a part of the activity that has to be implemented for us to create the kind of diversity that we want to see. And you have gone further to come here today to demonstrate the results of those activities in terms of having reached out to the various communities in the areas that you serve. As I've stated earlier, the role of nonprofit organizations the roles are critically important in the city of Los Angeles, as it is in any society. Government pays for certain things, but they don't pay for everything that is needed to sustain a strong community. We talk about physical sustainability. We have to talk about human relationships and human sustainability of human individuals. And so that is what our nonprofits do. By creating opportunities both financially and in terms of other kinds of resources to take care of the needs that our community has that government is not paying for. We're not paying for these bereavement services, and yet we know that if there is life, there is death. And yet the communities are sustained by us being able to effectively and efficiently deal with that with the resources of nonprofits such as the one that are before us today. Some scholars said that service is the rent we pay for living here on earth. I will paraphrase that to say that for all of those of us that live in a big city, and there's so many great benefits from being a resident of a great city, but there is a service we pay for being a part of that community. And often it is realizing that we're not the only one in the city. We're not the only one that has a great benefit. We're not the only one that is a part of great resources that emanate from such a great society. And having said that, every community has to endure the opportunity for others to succeed. And that means that neighbors like me have to understand that when we have the walk for women's breast cancer in my neighborhood, I may have to plan for, because I know that that is a critically important service that is being provided in our community by a nonprofit, Revlon, that does the walk in my community. And every other community in Los Angeles has to, at some point in time, realize it. In conclusion, we have two choices: to either be a colorblind society that does not recognize that there is a difference between people and cultures, or we can be a multicultural society that recognizes that there is a difference between cultures, and yet we know that all of us have to work together towards a solution. So after having gone through 2 sessions of this, I am encouraged that we can work together. It was revealed about the Japanese American community what we know about every community. Because while we are multicultural and have differences, we also have commonalities. And I think everybody at this table, and quite frankly, everybody in this room knows, there is no community where one person speaks for that community. We knew that coming in here before you came to the first session, and we knew it before we make this decision. And it was confirmed for those of us who don't know it today, that there is no difference in the Japanese American community than any other community that we might be from. There are various attitudes, various opinions, etc. So I rest my comments by saying that I know that I have learned a lot from this hearing. I know that the agency has learned a lot. And it is my hope that even the complainants who don't necessarily want to have any intervention or change in their neighborhood activity and operation will be tolerant. It is something that we have to embrace as we live in a big city and we want to work together. So I am strongly in support of this effort for those reasons that I have mentioned.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Garcia?
I just want to say thank you to Mr. Rivera and everybody at DOT also that took a look at it again. And, you know, we tried to see what else we can do. So I feel also very comfortable saying that we've exhausted everything that we could have to make sure that this event is well known, well participated by the community. And I also like the fact that because of the hearing, the opportunities arise that you were able to engage more community members. So I appreciate that. I hope that you continue to do that in the next following years, and that you do that constantly and with whatever you do for the community. So thank you to everybody that's been involved.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. And I do want to, I referenced this packet of material earlier from Our House, the Grief Support Center walk-in, the Run for Hope, with the various statements, some of which we've heard also orally at the hearing this morning, but others that submitted written communications from a number of different areas that's part of this package that will be part of the record as well. Based on all of that and on the position of the Department of Transportation, Streets LA, the Los Angeles Police Department, as well as the statements from the organizer and the statements from Ms. Cato, considering considering the reference and that we've had over 3 hours on this hearing. So hearing from my colleagues that they're satisfied that they've heard enough information, I'm going to make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 3. There's a second by Commissioners Davis and Caloza. Any objection? Without objection, that'll be the order on agenda item number 3. Any issue sending number 3 forthwith? We'll send number 3 forthwith. Thank you, everyone, for the time, effort, and input into this event. And that'll be the end of the item for the Run for Hope for 2020. Did we send it forthwith, Dr. Campos?
Yes, you did.
Okay, then that'll take care of that. Agenda item number, we've cleared the desk of voting items?
Yes, you have.
All right. Agenda item number 8, status update on major upcoming street improvement projects from the Bureau of Street Services. Mr. Berrigan, I know I've got speaker cards on this, but we'll hear from Mr. Berrigan first, and then we'll go to the speaker cards. Go ahead, sir. Mr. Sachs, one moment.
Good morning, President Kevin James, Commissioners, Bureau Representatives, City Attorney, and Executive Secretary. My name is Nick Berrigan, Superintendent from Streets LA. And in order to keep the public informed on the upcoming resurfacing projects and to minimize the impact on the community as well as delays to commuters, Streets LA would like to provide you with an update on all major upcoming street improvements. The following projects are scheduled in the Metro Resurfacing region. On Saturday, February 8th and Sunday, February 9th, 2020, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., we will profile and pave Main Street from Washington Boulevard to Adams Boulevard. In CD9, South Los Angeles Neighborhood Council, the funding is the Pavement Preservation Program. On Saturday, February 15 and Sunday, February 16, 2020, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., we will profile and pave Marmion Way from Monte Vista Street to Museum Drive. In CD1, East Los Angeles Neighborhood Council. The funding is also the Pavement Preservation Program. The following projects are scheduled in the Valley Resurfacing region. This weekend, February 8th and February 9th, there's no scheduled work. And on Sunday, February 15 and Sunday, February 16, 2020, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., we will profile and pave Riverside Drive from Hazeltine Avenue to Van Nuys Boulevard in CD4, Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council. The funding is also the Pavement Preservation Program.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Mr. Sachs, you have a card in on number 8.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Arnold Sachs, and another one for the record. So we heard about different communities having different requirements. So how is work chosen for these communities? You know, back when the city was considering a quarter-cent sales tax, Councilman Buscaino and Councilman Englander had a paper from the 1990s that described the condition of every city street in the city. We had ARA, America Fast Forward, from Obama, the administration. But we had shovel-ready projects, but nothing got done. So we have Zero Vision, we have the cones, and we have upcoming street improvements. How are they numbered? Because we have different communities. You mentioned Dr. King. Another doctor said, don't give up the power. Did you hear that, doctor? You know who I'm talking about? So you have communities, yeah, you have different communities and you have different people, and not one person mentions a community, but they just wanted to change in a route. They weren't asking for the event to be canceled, they just asked for a change in the route. And so, yeah, there's different things in different communities, that has no doubt. They had street closures in Playa Vista for when the sales tax went in, when the gasoline tax, they street calming measures, but nobody in the community knew about it, in the adjacent community, because it wasn't part of the city. So yeah, it happens, but it's about outreach. And in neighborhood councils, we heard outreach to the community, for the group running the event, but we didn't hear outreach to the community members that would be affected. And sometimes these street closures, like you said, it's 5 o'clock.
2 minutes.
But who's getting up at 5 o'clock to move their car?
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Ms. Cato put in a card on number 8. Ms. Cato on number 8. Ms. Cato on number 8. Okay, she's not here. So the oral report will be received on agenda item number 8. That takes us to Commissioner Coloso.
Thank you, President James. We will be ending today's meeting in memory of a recent employee at the Bureau of Engineering who unfortunately passed away. I just wanted to first acknowledge his family, the Salas family, who's here in the audience today. Thank you so much for your patience and for attending today. Thank you also to our lovely Bureau of Engineering staff who are here from the Central District specifically to be here and to really just remember this individual. So Cleophas Sales, also adorningly known as Cleo, was born in a small village in the Philippines called Bantay, Ilocos Sur on September 25th, 1938. He studied hard to achieve his bachelor's degree in engineering from the Far Eastern University in the Philippines. Cleo started his career with the Bureau of Engineering Central District on February 7th, 1983. During his 37 years of service, Cleo worked on a diversified sewer and storm drain private development project, multiple projects actually. Cleo was diagnosed with cancer about 8 years ago, and in the last half of 2019, Cleo went on medical leave when he was no longer able to come back to work. Cleo did not retire from his job since he was always hoping that one day he would come back to it. He was always known among his co-workers as friendly, supportive, and a generous person. He would always provide pizza lunch for the whole office on his birthday. Cleo's friends and co-workers from Central District share a great loss with his family and will always remember him. He is survived by his wife, Amelia, or Amy, 4 kids, 1 son and 3 daughters, and 8 young grandchildren, varying age from age 3 to 12 years old. And so with that, we thank Cleo for his service to the city. Thank again his family and our Bureau of Engineering family and the Public Works family as a whole for remembering Cleo today and allowing us to end in his memory. Thank you.
We are so adjourned. Thank you, everyone.